Hi guys. Okay, so this is 2.3. So we've done 2.1 and 2.2 last week. So now we're talking about 2.3. This is deductive reasoning. So in 2.1 we talked about inductive reasoning. Inductive uses patterns. Deductive is a little bit different because it's going to use facts, definitions, accepted properties, and laws of logic. So inductive patterns, deductive is like facts and definitions, okay? Inductive is a process that's looking for patterns. So we have two laws that we're going to talk about. The first is law of detachment. If the hypothesis of a true conditional statement is true, then the conclusion is also true. These are going to make more sense once we do some examples of them. Law of syllogism means, okay, I'm going to end up having three if-then statements. I'm going to have my first if-then statement, my second if-then statement, but if you notice, your conclusion becomes your hypothesis. So this will repeat itself. Your third if-then statement comes from sandwiching these first two and taking out what they share. So you would say hypothesis P with conclusion R. Okay? Again, these will make a little more sense once we get some examples below. Okay, determine if the three statements follow by 1 and 2 by either law of detachment or law of syllogism. If it does, state which law is used. If it does not, write invalid. Okay, so on number 1, we have an if-then statement. If an angle measures more than 90 degrees, then it is not acute. I am telling you that the measurement of angle ABC is 120 degrees, which is more than 90 degrees. So what I'm doing is I'm making the hypothesis, the first part of this, true. Okay, so law of detachment, I'm making the hypothesis true. So if an angle measures more than 90 degrees, then it's acute. I'm telling you I have an angle of 120 degrees. Well, that's more than 90, so that's true. So we can conclude that ABC is not acute by law of detachment. So what happens is the then part becomes true. So they said it's not acute. Well, then that angle is not acute, and that's by law of detachment. All 45-degree angles are acute, or are congruent. So if this were an if-then statement, and say if I have 45-degree angles, then they are acute. I am telling you that angle A is congruent. Oh, sorry, then they are congruent. My fault. I am telling you that angle A is congruent to angle B. Okay, so what I've just done is I have made the conclusion true. But if we look at law of detachment, it says that the hypothesis has to be true. We did not make the hypothesis true, so this does not follow law of detachment. This would be invalid. Because I made the conclusion true does not mean that the hypothesis has to be true. Just because angle A is congruent to angle B does not mean that they're 45-degree angles. They took it the wrong way. It's if I have 45-degree angles, then they are congruent. Just because I say that they are congruent does not mean that I have 45-degree angles. They could be 30-degree angles or something else. Law of detachment, the second statement would have said if I have two angles that are 45 degrees. Then by law of detachment, I could say that those angles are congruent. Okay? Number 3, if you order apple pie, then it will be served with ice cream. Matthew ordered apple pie, so he made the hypothesis true. That means the conclusion will now be true. Matthew was served ice cream. That is true by law of detachment. Number 4, if you wear school colors, then you have school spirit. If you have school spirit, then the team feels great. Okay, notice here, your then statement became your if statement. So you are going to sandwich this together. You're going to take out the part that they share, so those two parts that they share, then the team feels great. So if you wear school colors, then the team feels great. Okay, so this would be true by law of syllogism. Okay. Another example of that would be, if it is Wednesday, I'm going to wash my car. If I'm going to wash my car, then it is sunny. So I take out I'm going to wash my car part, and I would say, if it is Wednesday, then it is sunny. Okay? In examples 5 through 8, decide whether it's inductive reasoning or deductive reasoning is used to reach the conclusion. So inductive is patterns, deductive is rules. Okay? I want you to pause me and decide if it's inductive or deductive on these, and then unpause me when you are done. Okay, number 5. Angela knows that Walt is taller than Pete. She also knows that Peter is taller than Natalie. Angela reasons that Walt is taller than Natalie. Well, is that a pattern, or is that rules and stuff, clues, definitions that we know? Well, that would be clues and definitions and items that we know. So that's deductive reasoning. Josh knows the brand X computers cost less than brand Y. All other brands that Josh knows of cost less than brand X. Josh reasons that brand Y costs more than all other brands. So it's not a pattern, it's something happening every single time. That's information and facts, so that would be deductive. For the past 3 Wednesdays, the cafeteria served mac and cheese for lunch. Dana concludes that the cafeteria will serve mac and cheese for lunch this Wednesday. It is a pattern that's happening every Wednesday. So that's a pattern, so that is inductive reasoning. If you live in Nevada and are between the ages of 16 and 18, then you must take the driver's education to get your license. Anthony lives in Nevada and is 16 years old and has a driver's license. Therefore, Anthony took driver's education. Well, is that a pattern or is that facts and knowledge? It's facts and knowledge, so it is deductive. All right. In 9 and 10, state whether the argument is valid and explain your reason. Jeff knows that if he does not do his chores in the morning, he will not be allowed to play video games later in the day. Jeff does not play video games on Saturday afternoon, so Jeff did not do his chores on Saturday morning. So what they've done there is they've taken their if-then statement and they've made positive the then part, the second part. So would that be valid or invalid? We talked about that on the previous page. That's deductive reasoning. That is law of detachment, but we're making the conclusion true. Remember, in law of detachment, it makes the hypothesis true. So this would be invalid. Because it states, Jeff does not play video games on Saturday afternoon. Does that necessarily mean he didn't do his chores Saturday morning? Or does that mean that he could have had something else going on, so he didn't play video games? So it doesn't mean he didn't do his chores. Maybe he didn't do them and chose not to play the video game. Remember, for it to be valid for law of detachment, the hypothesis or first part has to be proven true. Katie knows that all sophomores take driver's education in her school. Brandon takes driver's education, so Brandon is a sophomore. So that one, Katie knows that all sophomores take, if you are a sophomore, then you take driver's education. Brandon takes driver's education, so Brandon is a sophomore. Again, invalid. Because we are making the conclusion true. We would need the hypothesis of saying he is a sophomore, therefore he takes driver's education to be true. Okay, in examples 11 through 14, use the true statement below to determine whether you know the conclusion is true or false. Explain your reason. If Dan goes shopping, then he will buy a present. The mall is open. If the mall is open, then Dan and Jody will go shopping. If Jody goes shopping, then she will buy a pizza. They're making the mall be open. They're saying the mall is open. So they are using law of detachment and stating that the hypothesis, the mall is open, is true. So that means that Jody and Dan did go shopping. That means that Dan went shopping and he buys a pretzel. That means Jody goes shopping, she buys a pizza. Did Dan buy a pizza? No, that's false. Jody did. Jody and Dan went shopping. That would be true because the mall is open. Jody bought a pizza. That is also true. Jody had some of Dan's pretzels. That's false. It could be true, but we don't know it. There's nothing telling us for sure that that is what's happening. Okay? So, inductive reasoning uses patterns. Deductive reasoning uses facts. Law of detachment makes the hypothesis true. So, if it is Wednesday, I'm going to the pet store. Today is Wednesday. That means by law of detachment that I'm going to the pet store. Had I done it backwards, it would not work. Had I said, if it is Wednesday, then I go to the pet store. I went to the pet store. Does not mean that it is Wednesday. Maybe I went on a different day. Law of syllogism takes out the part that they share and sandwiches together the part that they didn't share. So if I am a Titan, then I go to West. If I go to West, I play football. So then I would take out if I go to West part, and I'd say, if I am a Titan, then I play football. Okay? Just look for your homework that will be next. Let me look through the supplemental sheets before I get off of the call with you guys. Sorry, guys. Okay. You guys are going to complete, there is going to be a 2.3 Schoology assignment. You're going to complete that. You're also going to complete this worksheet. There's a front and back to this. Okay? All right, thanks, guys.